Okay, so we have our first guest. This is so weird because we haven't done this yet, but I'm very excited because our first guest on the SOS podcast is my good friend, Bridgette Carey. So, Bridgette, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bridgette. I go to James Madison University. I am currently a junior. I study musical theater and dance. I am from Virginia, and Belle is my dear friend.
Yeah, honestly, Bridgette, I think it's funny because I was thinking before we came on to record about our friendship. And it's funny because I think the first time we ever hung out was during the week before classes, before we started practicing for Sideshow.
First time-
Yeah, like 2 years
yeah,
ago. And Bridgette stayed at my house and in my apartment. And the first night she was there, we stayed up until like 3 or 4 in the morning, just like talking about various topics. So many
literally.
things, honestly. I think we covered pretty much everything under the sun. So I really appreciate you coming on and having this conversation about wherever we go, whatever direction we're getting into. I guess
Yeah.
first, just probably the most relevant, especially due to like the time we're in, just
Mhm.
the situation with COVID. So, Bridgette, you're in COVID isolation right now.
I
How are
am.
you feeling?
I'm actually physically I'm feeling a lot better.
That's good.
I had never contracted COVID until now, so it definitely hit my body a lot harder than any other sickness I have had before. I'm also like post surgery, I just had a breast reduction,
Yes.
so that's definitely a double whammy, but I'm not doing too bad. I've been finding things to like keep my mind busy so I'm not just like sitting in my room kind of like doing nothing all day.
That's good. So, like, in terms of self-care and isolation, like, it can be
Mhm.
hard because you're not like around your family and those sorts of things. Like, what are you finding is working the best for you to keep like a good mindset?
I've definitely been just like, well, one thing that I love doing is trying new things. I think that's something really fun for self-care too. I've been painting a lot, which is something like anything artistic kind of like puts my mind at ease. So I really like it. Definitely been doing like self-care nights, like skincare. I'm a
Ooh,
big
nice.
skincare advocate. I've been watching like new TV shows and like old TV shows. Kind of just definitely exploring what makes my brain and my whole self as a being just like feel good while I'm kind of isolating and spending time alone. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I'm starting to learn yoga. That's one new thing
Ooh,
I'm learning.
I love doing yoga. I think that it's so
Mhm.
good, and I like the mind body connection and the fact that you have to
Yeah,
focus so much. It's really good for training both your mind and your body. And I think like when I think about mental health, there's a lot of times a separation between the mental aspect and the physical aspect of our bodies, and people forget how much they're connected. So yoga is a really good way to maintain that balance and remember that your body is one instrument, not two separate things.
yeah, definitely.
Personally, like I suffer from illness anxiety, so the COVID pandemic has
Mhm.
been really difficult for me, which I think you know. Like last
Yeah,
year, I was having anxiety attacks like in the middle of the week, just randomly thinking I had COVID. So, as
right.
someone who did contract COVID, what would you say to someone who's anxious about maybe going into isolation or having like some sort of symptoms?
I definitely say give yourself some grace and don't be so hard on yourself, because I really felt like a burden. I felt so bad. My parents had to take me to the hospital on Sunday, and I just felt like this burden almost. I was like, I'm so sorry, like I don't know where I possibly could have gotten it from. Like I felt like I had been trying to be as safe as I possibly could have been, especially with the new variant spreading so fast. And my parents were like, you're not a burden, like it's not your fault, and
Mhm.
like you were being as safe as possible. Any of us could have gotten it from anywhere, and just like give yourself a little bit of grace and focus on like healing and getting better. So that's
Yeah.
definitely what I would say if anyone's going into COVID isolation and kind of feeling like that guilt behind it. Just know that it's like okay.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hard, and with the fact that cases are going up so rapidly right now, and Omicron is way more contagious than the other variants, it's
Mhm.
hard because I think for a long time, a lot of people were like blaming whoever gets COVID. And, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, if we want to get through it and we want everyone to be healthy, what we need to do is just be supportive and know like it's not someone's fault if they get COVID as long as they're following like the guidelines for isolation once they know that they have it. I think that it is really hard not to put blame on yourself that you might get someone sick. So I
Yeah.
totally see where that's coming from, because I whenever I've had like COVID scares, I've been like, oh no, like who did I give it to? I feel so bad.
Right.
I don't want to get anyone sick. And that's probably, yeah, where a lot of the anxiety comes from for people. So back on
Um,
topic.
yes,
You mentioned that you just got a breast reduction.
I did.
So
Yes.
first of all, recovery's going well. Do you feel good?
Yes. Recovery is going really well. I feel really good.
Hmm. So I don't know if you would just want to mention a little bit the reason why you got a breast
Mhm.
reduction and like what that means to you, what that signifies for you.
Yeah, totally. I've always had like bigger breasts since I was younger. I think I I started developing a lot faster than I think my other peers who had breasts when I was growing up. Like I started noticing them in elementary school. And the next thing I know, I have double D's in 8th grade. And it's
Wow.
kind of something hard to like be growing up with so young, especially because like not only is your body developing, but you're going through puberty and like you're developing your sexuality and like your ideas and learning new things about like the world and how it works and society and everything, and just kind of having that there.
Yeah.
um it was a little difficult, especially for dance. I would say I had a hard time fitting into a lot of costumes just because of my breast size, because they were so large. At
Mhm.
one point in high school, I realized that I stopped fitting into bras that I could find at like Target, and bras that I could find at Victoria's Secret and Aerie. And when me and my friends, we would all go like bra shopping for the first time in high school together, like going to the mall without our parents. We would go to Victoria's Secret, and I didn't fit into anything, and I realized I needed to get fitted. So I finally did. And I remember I was told that I was a 36G and that I had to go to like a plus size store for
Wow.
like for bras and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. I mean, like that's just part of life, I guess, for me. That's just my body. So I remember going to Torrid and trying to find these bras and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it was just a whole thing. And they were so expensive. So I resorted to just wearing sports bras, I think quite literally every single day, like sports bras and bralettes. I didn't wear anything else, no underwires. But it definitely contributed to not only like my physical pain, like I did have a lot of back pain and neck pain, but it definitely contributed to like my body image, and just it definitely had this like negative effect of like, oh, I feel like they're too big for me, like I don't feel proportionate, like all this stuff. Ever since I did get the reduction, I think I took the bandages off for the first time. It's like they wrap you up in ace bandages and gauze, and you can
Yeah.
take it off after 48 hours. So I took it off in the mirror and I started crying. Like I actually started crying. I was so happy. I was just like, I just feel so beautiful. Like they just make me feel so good in my body. And I also had learned to love like my boobs from before too,
Right.
but these were just like I just felt so good and so happy, and my back felt so much better too. So
Right.
that's kind of like the whole journey.
Yeah, I definitely think like I'm a person that's pretty small. Like I'm a small person, so I don't necessarily know what it would be like to grow up feeling like my body was either being sexualized because I had large breasts at a young age,
Right.
or like I didn't fit in with other girls because I couldn't shop at the same places as them. And I can imagine like the type of pressure and isolation that would bring, especially
Yeah.
as someone going through puberty, because it's already confusing enough. You have
Hmm.
like all of these girls, especially like in middle school, all of these girls are going through body image problems and puberty
Yeah.
at the same time. And girls can be really mean, like really mean. And a lot of that comes from like their own insecurities. And I guess it's just like for young adults, they have to remember, and like we all have to remember too, to everyone has different bodies and they develop differently. And when we do that, like it allows us to let people explore themselves and not really limit themselves to whatever expectations that body image in the media or whatever is putting on us. And I know that today a lot of young adults talk about how much like Instagram and fitness models affect them. It's something my teen Brooke and I have discussed a lot because her social impact initiative for Miss America is body image and how to change that in our culture. And so I know
That's
that like it's still really relevant even for girls that are smaller, girls that are bigger, mid-sized girls, like for everyone, that it's a
awesome.
really big part of your mental development to feel like your body isn't enough. And that's definitely something that needs to change.
No,
So,
yeah, definitely. Especially going through puberty and like growing up and like that pivotal time of your adolescence when you're growing up. I remember I remember I would be wearing like normal shirts, and like it would show off my breasts a little bit more than maybe someone else who had like smaller breasts would show off.
yeah.
And that's okay. Like I knew it was just my body and I couldn't really help it. I would have girls pass by me in the hallway and take my shirt and pull it up and like tell me to like stop being, and like, am I allowed to curse on here?
I'm gonna say we should
Probably
avoid
not.
curse words.
Probably not. But they would literally come past me in the hallway and take my shirt and pull it up and then tell me to stop being so inappropriate or call me some sort of derogatory name that's
Yeah.
inappropriate, as you
Mhm.
can imagine.
Yeah. It's so much on us as women, and like obviously huge into like women's empowerment. Both of us are, and we talk about
Yeah.
it a lot. And that's something I love about
Yeah.
our friendship is that we can talk about those things and like really dive into those topics. And as women, knowing that we suffer from these sorts of societal pressures ourselves, to then go and like put them onto other women is it's not healthy, it's not good, and that's something that definitely needs to change. Like we need to be there for each other and supporting each other and knowing that mentally these things are affecting us, and that's the only way we're going to change it is if we stand up against it and we say, hey, like Bridgette, your boobs may be a different size than mine, and typically maybe people are going to look at you differently, but I don't see you for that, and I don't want
Yeah.
you to feel like you're not good enough or like your body is wrong when it's just who you are, and like who you are is
Mhm.
beautiful and amazing. And
Yeah.
I love you so much, Bridgette. I do.
Oh my gosh, I love you, girl. If only I had you many, many years ago to begin with.
Mm. Wow, I just want to hug you so bad. It's so
I
dumb.
know, me too. I'm like,
So, do you feel like getting the breast reduction, like even though your body before was beautiful, you said you learned to love it. Do you feel like getting a breast reduction kind of was a way of you like taking care of yourself and your mental health, or like how exactly are you looking at it?
yeah, no, definitely. I think it was a really big decision to make. I
Mhm.
had been thinking about it for a while and I'd been texting and talking to one of my friends who had the same, like, she had the same problem as me. Like,
Mhm.
she had very large breasts and she had to shop at stores that provided
Right.
like bigger sizes that weren't found in like like Target or Victoria's Secret, like I was saying. And she had gotten the reduction done and she was like, it was the best decision of my life. And I was like, oh, Awesome. Okay. So she was saying all these positive things about it, like reassuring me. And finally, I like gathered up the courage to talk to my mom about it. And she was so supportive about it. She was like, that sounds awesome. Like, let's find a surgeon for you. Like, let's set up a consultation, do all of this. It was making me feel like so excited. And I knew it was something that would definitely help me in the long run, like mentally, I think, because having such large breasts, I like had covered them up all the time. I had worn shirts that were, like very covering for the most part. I always wore sports bras and t-shirts because I didn't like how big they were. I remember like in dance class, like I didn't like just wearing a leotard because I just felt like they were so revealed and I had to keep pulling them up. And, you know, just having this change, it's so different. But it feels so good. It just makes me so happy.
I'm very happy that you got to get your breast reduction. I know that
Yes.
you were. I remember when you first talked to your mom about it. I think.
Yeah.
I think that I was at your house right after in Virginia, like during school. I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
You're
I was
right.
there, and
Yeah.
I'm like
Actually.
I'm still so excited. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yeah, but it's good.
I know, like, as someone who grew up dancing as well, like,
Mm.
huge part of my childhood and still, like,
Yeah.
was definitely really developmental for me. Being a dancer and knowing that your body was being, like, judged, regardless of, like, what you looked like, was really hard
Oh,
because because it's all one thing, like, your physical being and, like, your mental being are so interconnected, and, like, if you're having a bad day in dance class, like, oh, the way you leave and you, like, just wanna, like, get out of your body, like, I felt that so often. I just wanted to, like, jump out of myself because I was like, "I don't wanna be in
yeah.
in my own being anymore," you know? Like, it definitely I think in a lot of people that are in sports too, like, feeling like your body, like, either isn't strong enough or isn't small enough, and also, like, the way that you're supposed to be strong and small, and, like, that's not necessarily realistic either. Like,
Hmm.
you
It's like,
can't be, like, itty tiny baby having all this power at the same time. Like, it's really the expectations are just super, like, what is the word I'm looking for? Opposite. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but I'm gonna use that word.
unrealistic.
Yeah,
Unrealistic expectations.
unrealistic expectations.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know if,
It
like, that experience was similar for you or not, but
Oh, it 100% was. Yeah. I grew up in a ballet studio. And for a really long time I wanted to be a ballerina. That was like my dream.
yeah.
I still want to be a ballerina. I love ballet. Like I could talk about it forever. I love ballet. Definitely a big part of me. Since growing up, and it was pretty strict. It wasn't like the other studios where even just like uniforms where you could wear like colored leotards or
Mm.
really like fun ones. Like it was pink tights and black leotards all
Yeah.
the time.
Hair in a
um
bun, like, super
yes,
slick back. Yeah.
yes, exactly, very very traditional. And I think I started going there when I was maybe 3 or 4, and by age 6 or 7 I started developing body image issues and body dysmorphia, and I never knew it was an issue until high school. I stopped
Wow.
training there in 8th grade. I stopped taking classes in 8th grade and I moved to a different studio. It was so hard, like constantly being compared to other people next to you. And I know I'm a little bit curvier and I have no issue with that.
Mm.
And a lot of the girls there, they weren't like as curvy, like they were definitely more petite, and that's also totally fine. The What wasn't fine was my teachers pulling me aside telling me at 8 years old till like through 12 years old that I had to start losing weight, or that if I
Yeah.
wanted to go on point and start training on point, I needed to lose weight. At one point, I think, and this is kind of funny actually, because
Oh,
I
no.
went into I I went into class and I had just eaten like like a late lunch or dinner before, and my dinner of choice was like Taco Bell. I was like, I'm gonna eat Taco Bell because I really, really want it, and as I should, of course.
It's phenomenal. So yeah, you
It's
should.
so good. And I think I had like the Nacho Bell Grande or something.
Okay,
So
period, yes.
I was really filled up. Like I had all this energy before dance, but I was at the bar, and you know how like you have to like squeeze your core when you're like balancing and stuff like that. I remember my teacher came over to me this specific day when I had just eaten Taco Bell, and she started hitting my stomach, and she was like, you need to suck it in.
No.
I was like, oh my, I was like, I'm doing my best. I am. And I didn't want to be like, I just had like a Nacho Bell Grande, like, please stop hitting my stomach. But
you're gonna throw up on the dance floor.
No, literally. But it was things like that that just stick with me, that are just awful, like hitting our stomachs and squeeze. Like I remember having my legs like literally squeezed by my dance teachers, being like, you need to lose weight, and sticks were involved. Sometimes they had like rulers.
Yeah, that's not appropriate at all.
No,
it never was, and it never will be. Yeah.
Ever. No. So it was definitely very hard growing up doing ballet, and just having such a low self-esteem, and that constant chase for being good enough, but knowing you'll never be good enough. Well,
Yeah.
not knowing you'll never be good enough, being told you'll never be good enough.
Just because of your body. And
yeah, exactly.
And I think that just goes to show like the way that we treat other people, but especially the way that we treat children, is super impactful. And like now you're, oh my gosh, what are you, 20?
Yeah,
You're
am.
so little. Now that you're 20, and that happened like when you were probably like 12 or 13, and you're still seeing it, you can still recount exactly like what it felt like and what it looked like. I'm sure you're able to picture it in your head.
Yes. Yeah.
And like how impactful those things are, and like you really have to be careful what you're doing when children are developing, because if you're talking to them that way about their own bodies, like they're gonna carry that with them when they're older. Like I know when I was a kid, I also had a problem. Like this is like so weird, but my uterus is backwards, so it tilts the wrong way. So like most of the time uterus tilts like towards your back. Mine tilts towards like the front of my body. And so I have a belly pooch that like obviously I can't get rid of. And a lot of women have belly pooches because like we have organs. Like we're supposed to have organs, you know? And I would have my dance teacher, like my ballet teacher, the same thing, where she would come over and she'd tell me to like tuck my pelvis because my stomach was sticking out too much. And it's like, that's not a pelvic tilt. Like that's just what my body looks like. Like I can't tuck anymore. And so I felt like I needed to get rid of that, and I couldn't. Like it wasn't going to happen. And I still remember constantly every week getting yelled at for it. It's like, there's nothing I could do about it. It's really on adults to, one, work through their own like issues with their bodies or mental issues, so that when they're interacting with children, younger generations, we're not teaching them the same things that harmed us. And I know like there's a lot of talk, especially on TikTok. Whoa, I hit the mic. There's a lot of talk, especially on TikTok, about generational trauma and how we inherit trauma from the people before us, our parents, the adults we're dealing with. And as much as like shout our struggle, like I try to keep it about the youth and educating the youth, it's not just teaching the youth, because then they're going to have to fight back against people that don't think the same way as them and know that like the ideas that are being perpetuated are harmful.
Right.
And I know like that's something I've had to work through in therapy a lot, is like, you know, I have to talk to people who are older than me, or people even my age that don't have the same mindset as me. And the way that can still be harmful now as a 23-year-old, trying to unpack these generations long ideas that are not healthy for us as human beings to keep going with. So yeah, I think that's just like a stunning example of that. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that it can be hard to talk about those sorts of things when they're like really, really affected you.
Yeah, no, totally. And I'm definitely a lot more open about it now, I think, because I've come to a point where I've learned to love my body and affirm myself and affirm my body, and rather than like after years and years of just having people say negative things about it and what I need to do to change it, it's hard to transition to a point where, or transition to a mindset where it's kind of like, all right, let's tell my body positive things and accept it and know that this is the way that it was made and this is the way that it is, and it's perfect and it's functional and it's healthy, and that's all I could ask for.
I love that. What was the most effective thing for you that like made that click? I mean, I'm sure it's like still a journey. It's not going to be like an everyday thing where you wake up and you love your body, but like, was there something specific that you did or that you like told yourself that made that mindset possible for you?
I don't know if I'd mentioned it yet, like during our like recording, but I struggle with, like, I have history of eating disorder, and I'm in I guess
we didn't talk about that.
Right, yeah. Well, yeah, so I have history of an eating disorder. I am in a recovery sort of way because I have relapsed a couple of times before, but I think it's for me kind of getting past the point of like having this mindset of a negative body image, like all the time, every time I put on clothes, every time I went out, I was always thinking about what my body looked and just thinking so negatively of it and always thinking what I had to do to change it. Finally, when I realized that I was doing things that were very harmful to my body to get it to what other people wanted it to be, I finally like admitted that to myself, and I gathered up the courage to tell my doctor and tell my family. I think when I was a sophomore in high school, around then, that's when I started kind of on my path to recovery. And that's when I kind of could like shift my mindset to a more positive one. I also surrounded myself with more people who talk positively about not only their bodies, but other people's bodies. I think that was one big thing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm so proud of you. I really am.
Thank you.
That's like, it's really hard. Like, I remember the conversation I had with my parents when I was struggling. Like, I didn't have an eating disorder. I definitely Yep. I definitely struggle with body image problems, but like my mental illness more so relates to anxiety and depression. And I can picture in my head the moment I realized, like, if I don't talk to my parents right now, I might not be alive in a month. So I need to go have a conversation because it's like I can't keep it to myself anymore.
Right.
And that's really scary, especially when you don't know, like, how are my parents going to react when I tell them, like, that I'm doing this thing that's harmful to myself. And, like, knowing who you can go to and, like, what's safe.
Yeah.
And if I talk to my parents, like, are they actually going to help me, or are they going to dismiss how I'm feeling? Because I know your family, like, loves you so much, and, like, they take really good care of you, but, like, there is a reality where there's children whose parents, like, if they came to them, wouldn't, like, support them in the same way, and, like, that's really sad to me, and I wouldn't want that to be someone's experience. So, like, knowing, just, like, for podcast purposes, not for, like, purposes of either of us, just knowing, like, who are the safe people in my life that I can talk to that'll be there for me if I need it, that's a really hard thing to figure out.
Yeah.
And, like, when I talk to children, like, I try to figure out and teach them how to find those people and to, like, make their escape plan from their mental health problems. So I'm glad that, like, your parents, when you came to them, listened to you, and I'm, again, very proud of you for being able to vocalize that to them, and I'm glad you're doing better. And
thank you.
Also, like, I know you said you relapsed, and relapsing can be really difficult and super frustrating because, like, oh, like, I was doing so well, and that's part of, like, being human. And knowing that you're not going to make the perfect decision every single time. And as much as it sucks, because like now you have to go unlearn all the things that you learned before.
Right.
It's still like a beautiful thing that you can say, like, I relapsed and I'm doing better now. Like, you know, like that's really super impactful. So Bridgette, the last thing that we'll talk about is I'm excited to talk to you about this because we haven't talked about it in a little while. And I think it's really important because it's a huge part of a lot of people's journeys. And it's like a very taboo subject to some groups of people still. So you came out as bisexual, I think like a year ago?
About a year ago, yeah.
So how has that been for you? Like, how has that journey been? If you just want to like walk people through it, maybe.
Yeah, totally. For me, when I came out, it wasn't like a big thing. Like I didn't like post about it on social media or anything like that. My mindset was kind of like, if it comes up, like it comes up. Because for me, I don't think it's that big of a deal for me anymore. What was really important to me was telling my closest family and my friends, and I told them, and they were all very supportive. I think my parents were a little bit surprised, but they still were supportive nonetheless. And they were like, well, we love you no matter what, obviously, of course. Good. In high school, I started realizing, I was like, okay, I think I might not just be attracted to boys. Like, I think I might not be straight, but it was so scary for me. I didn't want to admit it. I was like, I feel like everyone around me like would accept me, but I'm scared. Like I was just scared for myself, you know? So high school goes by and it's kind of something that I ignore. Last year I finally was like, you know what? This is who I am. Like this is a part of me. I'm attracted to men sometimes. I'm attracted to women sometimes. And it was just, it felt so much better being like open about it and being okay with it. And, you know, sexuality is such a spectrum, like it's ever changing for people.
Right.
I think I struggled the most with being like realizing and kind of like being okay with my sexuality, and also like being Christian. That was like one thing that was hard for me, because I feel like most people would think, oh, well, like if you're Christian, like you can't be like, you know, like I've had people like say that to me before, not about me, but about other people. Like,
right. And that's hard
like,
to not internalize that idea.
Of course. Yeah. Like I've heard people have been like, oh, well, if you're Christian, like you can be gay, you know? And I was like, no, you can actually. And that's a whole other conversation, of course. It was something that was very scary for me, because I was scared, like, how would my friends who are Christian react? Like, you know, would they still accept me? Would they think that I'm just like doing it to like grab attention for myself or anything like that? But I know that honestly, no one else's opinion matters. And I'm happy with being who I am and being okay with who I am, because this is who I am. And it's been definitely like a struggle and a journey, but I'm at a place where I'm just open, and I'm happy that I'm open about it.
I'm happy you're open about it too.
Thank you.
Do you feel like since you came out, it's been easier for you like to deal with it, or is there still like a certain level of internalized homophobia that you're fighting against?
I want to say it's a little bit in the middle, because I think even since I was little, I always had like this like no matter what I was told from any groups of people, or like religious or not, or any like anti-LGBT things that I would hear, whether it was like on the media, from family, from friends, something inside of me, like I always was like, no, that just doesn't sound right. Like we should, like everybody should just accept everybody, and if someone's happy, like who cares? It's, you know, ever since I was little, I always thought that. I haven't really experienced any like internalized homophobia like for myself, but in general, being out, hadn't necessarily gotten easier. Last summer, I don't know if you knew, but I worked for summer camps, Christian summer camps.
Okay.
And I felt like I kind of had to go back in the closet a little bit. So that
Wow.
was
Okay.
that was really hard. The people that I worked with, they were lovely. Like, they were really great. And I still talk to a lot of them. Like, they're still my friends, but I could tell that they had a different mindset and a different view on the LGBTQ community. Honestly, to be completely honest, if I was scared that if I said something or if I posted something on social media, I would have been fired, to be completely honest.
Wow.
So that was something that was really, really hard. I remember I would spend nights crying about it, just feeling like I wasn't being completely myself, because that is something that's part of me, whether or not I talk about it a lot or I don't talk about it at all. It's something that I'm open about, and I felt like I had to hide a part of myself. So that was hard ever since when did summer end? August, coming back to school.
Yeah.
Not being in that environment anymore. Ever since not being in that environment anymore, I think I've been a little bit easier on myself. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I can imagine feeling like your community isn't allowing you to be yourself is
Yeah.
super mentally taxing, and something that I say a lot, in reference to Shout Our Struggle and mental wellness in general, is that our individual wellness affects our community's wellness, but also vice versa. Our community's wellness infects our individual wellness. And so if your community has this mindset that is super limiting and exclusive to certain identities, that's going to affect individuals within that community. So having a strong community that really allows people and supports people regardless of their race, their gender, their sexuality, their gender identity is really what allows us to be the healthiest versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And so to hear that coming out of a community that made you feel like not yourself was helpful. I think that that's really hopeful for people who might be struggling in a similar way. So to just go off of that last question,
Mhm.
what would you say to someone, either a teenager, someone in college, or someone older than that, that is coming to terms with their sexuality and debating coming out?
I would say,
It's a really hard question.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. It's an important question though, but I would say don't feel any pressure to come out or to not come out. If you want to tell the whole world, if you want to um like like start big and post it on social media and stuff like that and make big announcements, that's awesome. And if that's something that you really feel inclined to do, I say go for it. And if you don't feel like doing that, if you want to start out small or anything like that, if you want to